We know that energy is needed for us to carry out life processes. And there are actually many different forms of energy. Do you know what are these different forms of energy? This is Science with Dani, and today let's explore energy. Welcome to another episode of Science with Dani, where we help students and parents in their preparation for PSLE Science. Alright, so if you are a student or a parent who wants to improve in your primary school science, click the subscribe button and don't forget the notification bell so that you will not miss any of our future videos. Before we take a look at the different forms of energy, let us first define what is energy. All right, energy is the ability for us to do work. Okay, energy is very important in order for living things to carry out their life processes. What are these life processes? Example, all right, growth, reproduction, your digestion, all right, respiration, and all other bodily functions. Okay? But not only living things need energy for them to do work. Even non-living things, for example, like machines, they need energy in order for them to perform their function, in order for them to work. All right, so no matter if you are a living thing or a non-living thing, all of them will need energy in order to work. Let us look at some examples of how living things make use of energy in order for them to work. All right, in the olden days, before there were lorries, vans to transport heavy things, people uses animals in order to transport them. All right, so these animals, they need to have energy in order for them to carry the heavy things so that they can transport them from one place to another. Okay, now as for non-living things, all right, we can see aeroplane, ships, they need to transport things from one place to another as well. But for these machines, they need to have fuel as their energy. Without fuel, they are not going to be able to run, they are not going to be able to work. So energy is very important, all right, especially for living things to help them to grow. Without energy, living things will not be able to grow. For example, all right, the plants make use of the light energy from the sun in order to help it carry out photosynthesis and make food for themselves. So if you would like to watch the video about photosynthesis, you can always click up here, all right, or maybe here, okay, either one, you can click up there and, all right, you can watch the video on photosynthesis. Energy can exist in different forms, and now we will take a look at potential energy. All right, energy can be stored, and once energy is being stored, it is known as potential energy. But when it comes to potential energy, there are actually three types of potential energy. The first one that we will be looking at is gravitational potential energy. Gravitational potential energy is the energy possessed by an object when it is above the ground. Okay, so to decide on how much gravitational potential energy an object has, we have to look at two things. One, the height of the object from the ground, or two, the mass of the object. So it is these two items that is going to control the amount of gravitational potential energy. How does it work? If there are two objects and their mass are the same, the object that is in a higher position from the ground will have more gravitational potential energy to the object that is lower. All right? But the second one, if both objects are on the same height from the ground, then the object that has a bigger mass will have more gravitational potential energy. Okay? So remember that gravitational potential energy is basically energy an object possesses when it is above the ground, and it is controlled by the height from the ground as well as the mass of the object. The second form of potential energy is elastic potential energy. All right. From the name itself, elastic, we know that it is something that can be stretched or that can be compressed. So if I'm going to take a rubber band, or if I take a spring, what happens is that if I stretch them, then they're going to possess elastic potential energy. Okay? So the longer you are able to stretch them, the more elastic potential energy that they have. Or the more you are able to compress them, the more elastic potential energy they are going to possess. But you have to remember, elastic potential energy will only exist if the spring or the rubber band is being stretched or compressed. If they are not stretched and not compressed, then it does not have elastic potential energy. All right? So let's take a look at some examples. All right. If let's say we look at bow and arrow. Okay, so we are talking about Robin Hood. Bow and arrow. So if you take the arrow, you place it on the string, and you stretch the bow, you bend the bow, what's going to happen is that the bow is now going to have elastic potential energy. Once you release the arrow, the bow would want to go back to its original shape. And when it goes back to original shape, that is when elastic potential energy is being released and converted to the energy that's going to make the arrow fly through the air. Okay? So, elastic potential energy is the second form of potential energy. Right, now we're going to take a look at the third form of potential energy. All right, it is chemical potential energy. Chemical potential energy, it is an energy that is being stored in food, fuel, or batteries. All right, so this energy is just stored in there, waiting to be converted to other forms of energy. Let's take a look first at food. All right, the food we eat, it contains chemical potential energy. So once the food has been digested and it has gone into your bloodstream and sent to the cells, the chemical potential energy in the food is waiting for respiration to take place. Once respiration takes place, chemical potential energy will now be released as an energy that helps you to work. All right. The second one, fuel. Fuel such as petroleum, or the short name of it, petrol, which is used to run cars. Okay, so this petrol that you pump into the car is then being burned in the engine. So from there, what happens is that the chemical potential energy in the petrol would be released and then converted to another form of energy that helps the car to move. All right, and finally, the third one, batteries. Battery is the most mobile form of stored energy that you can bring anywhere in order for you to operate your electrical product. Now, in the battery, once it is formed, or once the battery is placed in a closed circuit, the chemical potential energy in the battery will now be released as electrical energy, all right, in order to make your electrical gadgets working. All right, so it's time for us to recap what we have learned today. Firstly, we have defined what is energy. Energy is the ability for us to do work, okay? And then we took a look at energy, how it exists in different forms, all right? Different forms of energy can be converted from one to another. And then we explore deeper into potential energy. Potential energy, which is a stored energy, exists in three forms. One, gravitational potential energy. Two, elastic potential energy. And three, chemical potential energy. All right? So, there are still other forms of energy that we have not gone through in this video, because if we are going to go through those energies, that is going to be a very long video. Okay, so for those other forms of energy, we will explore them in the next video. Thank you for sticking with me to the end of this video. If it has been helpful for you, share it with your friends. Alright? And if you know of somebody who will benefit from watching this video, share it with them. Okay? Alright, I'm excited to see you again in my next video where there will be more sharing from me to help you in your primary science learning journey. Alright, so see you in my next video. This is Dani saying goodbye. Bye-bye.